Hey everybody, Nicholas Snow here, and welcome to Notes from Hollywood on PromoHomo.TV. One of the series on PromoHomo.TV is called Hot in Palm Springs. It is hot in Palm Springs, and I actually am in Palm Springs. And I could have called this an episode of Hot in Palm Springs, but you know, Notes from Hollywood is about people passionately pursuing professions in the entertainment industry. And David Lee is well beyond that. I mean, he's had an amazingly successful career in the entertainment industry. And today he receives the 449th star on the Walk of Stars Palm Springs. I'm coming to you live on March 18th, 2022. The official ceremony gets underway at 3 p.m., which is just about 8 minutes from now. I always go live so I can get my official PromoHomo.TV announcements out of the way, so I can encourage you to share the broadcast with other people. And I've also gotten here early to grab a certain vantage point. So right over there is David Lee. I'm afraid I'm not going to get any closer to David today, but he's over here in the white shirt with the nice lanyard. And actually, this is a very VIP event, and it's not characteristic of most of the Palm Springs Walk of Stars dedications. Generally, they're more casual. This one is more formal. I suppose it needs to be for someone who is high profile as David Lee. So I'm going to tell you more about David. But before I do that, I want to let you know if you're watching live, comment. And if I see your comments, I might have the opportunity to show them during the ceremony. Also, for their support of my show, I want to thank DAP Health. One of their value statements is we welcome all people, period. I'm a proud client of DAP and have been for a decade. Also, I want to give a shout out to 849 Restaurant and Lounge in North Palm Springs for their ongoing support. I'm a proud media sponsor of the LGBTQ Community Center of the Desert. Their message is creating vibrant community by helping LGBTQ people along their way. I hate to tell you, but if this is March 18th, 2022, March 19th is the Red Dress Red event. It's sold out. So, John Taylor, how are you?
Oh, hello, a camera, a microphone, get out of the way. No.
I was literally about to press a button and say, for their support, I want to thank KGAY 1065, Palm Springs. And here you are, John Taylor.
Well, yes, I have ID. It's me. It really is.
So another fantastic star dedication.
Oh, I don't know. This one to me is so very special because David Lee has just done so much for our community, and that giant ceremonial check that they cashed.
$5 million he donated to Save the Plaza Theater in downtown Palm Springs.
And the more people you talk to, the more you find out. And I was just saying this to David. I said, you really have your tentacles in a lot of things. He's writing those big ceremonial checks and smaller ones to all sorts of arts-related charities, 501c3s. I'm not saying people should hit him up, but he's working it, and he's walking the walk and talking the talk, and he deserves a star.
Yeah, he wrote for the Jeffersons. He wrote for Cheers. He co-created Frasier and Wings, and he's been a theater producer. You know, when they were trying to stop Dr. Laura Schlesinger from having a show, I was at a protest at Paramount Studios. He worked there at the time. And he came out on the street and he joined us at the protest against his own employer.
That's pretty cool. He is a cool dude, and he's got 9 Emmys to prove it, 18 nominations. So I'm not the only one that thinks that way. The Academy does.
So you've interviewed, and thank you for coming by. You came by at just the right time.
Yeah.
So you've interviewed him in preparation for today. Yeah. What was the most interesting thing that you gleaned?
That I gleaned interview. I think it's the fact that he's a ham at heart, and having great theater spaces and preserving them is doing something for the ham in all of us.
Well, thank you, John, for dropping by, and thank you for the ongoing media partnership with PromoHomo.TV and KGAY 1065 Palm Springs. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
So you gotta love them. And I was telling you about how I'm a media sponsor of the LGBTQ Community Center of the Desert, and also a year-round sponsor of Palm Springs Pride. Find them at pspride.org for their support in amplifying my show across the Twitterverse. This is 5-minute warning, by the way, for the show. For their support in helping to promote my show across the Twitterverse. I want to thank the hashtag #ILoveGay campaign. And if you're having merch envy, you don't have to anymore because you can get your official merch on Amazon or go to the official merch link at PromoHomo.TV. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe by hitting the subscribe button next to the arrow. And if you're watching on Facebook, during the broadcast, what you'll see is a bell pop up. And if you click that bell, you'll be notified of upcoming broadcasts. And feel free to follow me on social because there's all kinds of things that are happening. You know, one of the things that makes my show possible, not only my advertisers, but the PromoHomo.TV superstars. And they are people that have voluntarily subscribed to the free content of PromoHomo.TV for as little as $10 a month. If you see this in time, on Sunday, April 24th, from 3 to 5 p.m. on the patio at 849, I'm throwing a party specifically for people who subscribe to my network for $10 a month or more. And it's going to be my 60th birthday event. My 60th birthday is actually the following day, April 25th. But here are some of the people who have stepped up to support the network.
And I just can't get enough of your energy. I just can't get enough. You're the light in the middle of the night, and I just can't get enough. Oh, 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 oh,
I really love those superstars, and you can become one yourself. And so let me tell you what's going to happen. They're officially going to start the program at any minute. And to prepare for that, I'm going to turn the camera around. So bear with me while I do that. I'm going to go to camera, and I'm going to switch it around, at which point you're going to be looking at the Air Museum. And then I'm going to whisk the camera around like this. And so the good news is that I'm going to be able to bring you fantastic audio of this event. The bad news is this is as close as I'm going to get you to the action. And because I'm using a particular platform on a variety of social media from my phone, I'm unable to Zoom. So just have a heads up about that I'm unable to Zoom. And while we're waiting for Nona to begin, so if you've just tuned in, Palm Springs, Walk of Stars Palm Springs is honoring renowned writer, director, and producer David Lee with the 49th star on the Walk of Stars Palm Springs at this unveiling ceremony. Nona Watson is about to give her own greeting, and I'm going to turn on some better audio so I can bring it to you.
Palm Springs. Now I know it's a little warm, but can you believe that we're sitting in the middle of this beautiful park, in the middle of this beautiful city, surrounded by these mountains. It is the perfect day for the perfect star.
So you'll have really good audio, but unfortunately I can't get you any closer.
And on behalf of the entire board of directors, which some of my board is here, if you'd please stand, we'd like to acknowledge you. Board of directors, thank you. It is our honor to be the host of this star ceremony today. We are so excited to present the 449th star on the Palm Springs Walk of Stars to the amazing David Lee. And joining me today, Senator Barbara Boxer. Members of the Palm Springs City Council, we have our mayor, Lisa Middleton, Councilmember Jeff Coors, Councilmember Dennis Woods, and our former Councilmember, J.R. Roberts. Now, my job today is going to be very easy because we have an MC. Kevin Corcoran has lived in Palm Springs for 20 years, and he's a good friend of our honoree, David Lee. Kevin owns Artful Travelers, an organization that produces high-end cruises for BPS and NPR donors on Regent 7 Seas Cruise Line. He's very engaged in the Palm Springs community. He's vice chair of the Palm Springs Airport Commission, vice president of the Palm Springs Boys and Girls Club, and he recently joined the Plaza Theater Foundation to raise money for a beautiful theater. Welcome to the stage, your MC, Kevin Corcoran.
Thank you, Nona. And on behalf of David Lee and all of us who have worked on this for a while, thank you, Nona. Thank your team. It's been really a pleasure working with you and creating this moment. And David, we're here. All right, so good afternoon and welcome all. We're here to celebrate a highly acclaimed Hollywood writer, director, and producer, a passionate supporter of the arts, and a very generous citizen of Palm Springs. David Lee was born and raised in Claremont, California. He graduated from the University of Redlands with a degree of theater and music. In 1978, he began a long writing, directing, and producing career in television. With his partner, Peter Casey, he wrote and produced The Jeffersons, that ran for 6 years, Cheers for 4. In 1989, they added their third partner, the lead, David Angel. The first series that the three of them did was Wings, which ran for 8 seasons on NBC. And their second was Frasier, which ran for 11 seasons. Frasier won a record-breaking 38 Emmys and 108 nominations. It is the most awarded television program in the history of comedy. Personally, David has won many, many awards for his personal contribution to all of this. He's won 9 Emmy Awards and 19 nominations for his writing, directing, and producing extraordinary television. He received a Golden Globe, the People's Choice Award twice, the Directors Guild Award, the Producers Guild Producer of the Year Award, the Television Critics Award 3 times, the British Comedy Award, and the prestigious Peabody Award. David has a funny thing. He calls all of his Emmys the girls. Come see the girls. You should see them shining in his library. It's quite something. So let's talk about theater. In 1999, David returned to his first love, the theater, directing critically acclaimed revivals of Light Up the Sky, Do I Hear a Waltz, 110 in the Shade, Camelot, Art, and Casa Valentina. Most recently, David received the 2020 Ovation, which is Southern California Award for Excellence in Theater, for the Best Production and Direction of Ragtime at the Pasadena Playhouse. So now to Palm Springs. David has made significant and generous contributions to the Palm Springs community. He's been a major financial supporter of the Palm Springs Art Museum and the museum's Architectural and Design Center. He has been a passionate supporter of the Annenberg Theater Council. Here, here. The producers of the museum's Annenberg Theater event, as well as the very popular Cabaret 88 series, is produced by David Zippel, Terry Ketover, and Tom Cherry. For 13 years, David was the leading funder for the Coyote Stage Works. He also made substantial contributions to both the Desert Rose Playhouse and Desart Performs Theater Company, supporting both of these organizations through the pandemic. In 2019, David founded the David Lee Foundation. The foundation aims to support and enhance and promote professional theater in Southern California. The foundation has already made a tremendous impact by fostering bigger and bolder works from local theater companies in the Southland. He's been an effective steward of architectural restoration of two iconic properties in Palm Springs. The Donald Wexler's Dinah Shore estate, which he totally renovated and brought back to the original design, and where he lives today, the E. Stewart Williams 1986 house on Stevens Road. David has been a generous supporter of the Desert AIDS Project, sharing personal commitment to the mission of DAP to advocate for healthcare for all citizens, especially those facing HIV and AIDS. He's also been a major funder in LGBT political efforts, securing equal opportunity and marriage equality for all citizens. The bottom line is David Lee has been a passionate supporter of the city of Palm Springs for over 20 years. When organizations need help, David has responded with financial support and leveraged his extensive network to build awareness and support for local causes. His most recent donation, the landmark $5 million gift to save the Palm Springs Theater, has brought new energy and momentum the effort to save the 1936 gem to its original prominence.
With $5 million in support of that effort, putting them halfway to their fundraising goal.
It is where we're going to hold a special fundraiser with the creators of Frasier tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Plaza Theater. We hope you will all be able to join us and continue to celebrate David's next project. So David, on behalf of the city of Palm Springs and the Palm Springs Chamber of Commerce and all the friends here today who love you like family, we're thrilled to honor you with a star, but first for our new downtown park on the Palm Springs Walk of Stars. Congratulations. Let me introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is David Gerbitz. Now, I introduced David Gerbitz to David Lee several years ago when we stopped by the Dinah Shore house to pick up David Lee to go on a hike. And at the time, David Gerbitz was wearing a somewhat provocative pair of short shorts with great big rips up the back, exposing all of his underwear and everything else. And he was really kind of embarrassed. It's like out of a Sunday 70s porno film or something. But what's funny about it was, after the introduction, Dave Gerbitz says, "Well, can you show me around the house, the Dinah Shore house?" And David Lee, in his classic way, said, "Sure, you go first." It was the beginning of a long, hilarious relationship between the two. David Gerbitz is one of David Lee's funniest friends, and I don't mean to put too much pressure on you, but please welcome David Gerbitz.
Wow. Thank you. Look, I am so honored and happy to be able to say a few words about my good, dear friend, Bruce Lee. David Clark Lee. And this is a beautiful spot. Fantastic. I'm a little sensitive to the museum, however. You just had to have them deal with Maryland's panties issue. And now here we have this. So, the city has lost its soul. By the way, Kevin, that first meeting, I was mortified. That's how I met David Lee, touring his house, looking like a go-go boy on Sunset. Obviously, we've been friends a long time. It didn't happen yesterday. You can tell. So I didn't know who David was that day, and yet my favorite TV shows growing up were, in fact, Cheers Wings, and most of all Frasier, which I adored. And so the truest celebrity for me was certainly the man that co-created, directed, and wrote these shows. And even that day I couldn't wear proper pants. I was just was impressed. In the years since, we've grown to be incredible friends. David is just David. But in those early days, given my own fangirling over all things television, it was hard not to have Mr. Lee on a pedestal. He had to suffer through a lot of my questions. It's like, you know James Burrows? Of course, he directed one of my shows. And use your man voice, Dave. Even today, I remain a little glamored and a bit in awe. Between our usual side-splitting laughter and most fun banter that friends can have, I think, wow, this guy did it. He channeled that swirling creativity and went the way of his 5-year-old dreams. So what if Mr. Walt Disney himself didn't respond after David wrote him asking for a job? By the way, who doesn't write back a 7-year-old? Despite his initial plans, David never became that high school music teacher. Screw the clarinet, that didn't happen. No more playing the role of dancing skyscraper number 2 5 times a day in humid Astro World. Gone is that year he spent theater touring through the cornfields and farm towns of Iowa. So all this was his early years and part of his rising. And eventually he and Peter Casey, the then rookies, turned in script after script after script until it hit, and it didn't hit, and then it hit, and here we are. And how many of us truly take our childhood dreaming and journey off to be a giant in entertainment? Actually, some of you are like me. Forget it. I haven't. David and his band of some of you here did not just transform television comedy. These characters and stories became a part of American culture itself, and they were also my personal escape growing up. It's really nice to be in awe of your friends. Not many of us get to experience a bit of creative genius with our friendships, but I do. Conversations with David is rich with insight. You are, of course, hit with his signature, incomparable wit, delivered casually and always, with every sardonic, kind of low-toned bone in his body. He's wonderfully self-effacing, but he also revels in the gentle pick at our vulnerabilities. I recently wanted some consolation from my dear friend David. I had gained the COVID 20 or 40 pounds, and I just needed a good skinny friend to tell me that I still had it. Sister. So I texted a split picture of David, some muscular guys on one side and a hideous, fat-fanged, terrifying, red-headed clown on the other. I just said, David, I'm depressed. I feel like that clown. David's empathy and sweet reply, oh, Dave, you don't have red hair. Thank you. Spend time with David and you find his values: personal accountability, intellectual honesty, curiosity, and just a hint of perfectionism. He is loyal, he is kind, he is generous, he champions his friends, marveling at our lives with great interest, and he's always supportive. David knows heartache, David knows tragic loss, and from this, I think that's where he gets the importance of love and how to hold people dear. He roots for the underdog, but you better be the underdog who puts in the work. I suspect that was instilled from his parents, Joe and Lillian, who escaped the Dust Bowl from Texas to Claremont. His dad worked hard from meager means, from bank teller all the way to vice president, and they would be very proud. Maybe that's why David believes you can make things better by working on them more. He said that about his craft, but I think that's how he lives, and that's how he nurtures his friendships. So last month, David and I were chatting into the night, hitting every social topic of the hour until we landed, of course, on musical theater. Surprise! But I asked David about a show, A Little Night Music. And then the master class began. He started with something small, like, they sing the overture in that show. And then he was off, giddy and expressive and lit up, illuminating a full review, the story, the staging aspects, historical context, the character backstories, certain masteries of the music, and that's why she sings Send in the Clowns. An hour later, he was reading some song lyrics, and 10 minutes later after that, he was singing them to me, just like many times before. So David's acclaimed and gifted artistry in theater and television swells from the heart. Anyway, that's how it goes being David's friend. He's just pure story. His mind is an imaginarium, which means as his friends, we get it all, don't we? We're not only cared for and understood, but we get to disappear together into his world of story and laughter. So much laughter. Cheers, David.
Thank you, David Gerbitz. Writer and producer Geoff Richman is one of David's most tenured friends. I wouldn't use old. Believe it or not, they met in 1976 at a Buddhist gathering in Los Angeles. They went back to Geoff's house and they both began writing jokes at Geoff's table. Geoff was working on a nightclub act. Well, the act didn't work out, but it launched a very successful writing career for both Geoff and for David. Geoff worked with David and Peter Casey on the Jeffersons, Wings, and on Frasier. He was the lead writer and executive producer on Modern Family. He's also the co-creator and producer of a new series that stars Neil Patrick Harris called Uncoupled, which will premiere on Netflix later this month. Geoff is also one of David's funniest friends. Not to put too much pressure on you, please welcome Geoff Richman.
Most of you know David as the super successful, fiercely intelligent, wildly talented, somewhat imperious, wickedly funny, quietly enigmatic writer slash producer slash director we have all gathered to honor here today. But as someone who has known him for a few years shy of half a century, let me tell you who he was when I met him, before all the success and awards and money and fame. He was a fiercely intelligent, wildly talented, somewhat imperious, wickedly funny, quietly enigmatic, 27-year-old sandwich seller slash practicing Buddhist slash aspiring television writer. In other words, David has always been David. And while his circumstances have certainly changed considerably from his days of hawking ham and cheeses on Rye, he himself has not. It is a uniquely special gift and privilege to share 5 decades of continuous friendship with someone, particularly for a gay man of a certain age. Actually, in my case, an uncertain age. I've been lying about it for so long. I lost track of how many years I've shaped up as an understatement. Anyway, special because it's rare one gets to grow up alongside another person, to witness and be part of all 3 acts of each other's lives. And it's a privilege because so many of us didn't get to make it this far. Not only were David and I young together, me a little younger, of course. We were also middle-aged together, and now we are approaching old together. Again, not to quibble, he a little ahead of me. In fact, that's how it's been for us over the years. David always a little ahead of me. But never so far ahead he couldn't reach a hand back to get me along. When he and Peter were story editors on the Jeffersons, they gave me my first job writing an episode of comedy. I was 12. They hired me on the staff of Wings and Frasier. It's very tricky hiring your friends. And it's equally tricky working for your friends. You're both going out on a limb that, if it snaps, can do irreparable damage. But we did it again and again and again. He directed my first pilot. I wrote an episode of Frasier, which won him an Emmy for directing. That the episode was overlooked in the writing category made my joy for David's win no less sweet. Okay, a little less sweet. And when it came time for us to part ways in business, we did that pretty seamlessly too. But when I look back, our careers in television are really such a small part of what I cherish about David. We became Buddhist friends, chanting Nam Myo Renge Kyo for the things we both wanted. Jobs, boyfriends, money, and oh yes, world peace. In the late 70s, we formed with Freeze Greenberg and Michael G. Hawkins and a few other young gay men, a group of friends which we inexplicably christened the Delshannons, because somehow we knew we needed that support moving forward in the world. We celebrated every birthday, had poker nights, took cheap vacations together, and here David was a little ahead as well. He was the first of us to earn real money, so we could always afford one step up in the accommodations. If we all shared a room, sleeping two on a bed, he paid the extra $12 for a cot. Not so many years after that, he would take us all on vacation to Scottsdale, to Hawaii on yachts. He made us all feel rich. And then came the terror and the losses and the grief. In our little group alone, Sweet Dennis and David's beloved Randy made an honorary Delshannon through marriage. David nursing him tirelessly at home. Dark days, darker nights. The enormity of it so profound for all of us. But David never wavered in his devotion. I remember telling him at Randy's memorial, "You are the person you hoped you would be." And he was, and is. We call each other Lou, spelled L-U. Have since forever, I don't know why. I don't know who started it or what tacit agreement we made to never stop doing it. But there you are. Soma Lou, dear old friend, congratulations on this wonderful, most deserved honor. May we continue on our journey through our lives together. You always a little ahead of me.
Jeffrey Richman. Geoff, thank you so much. Our next speaker is a public servant who continues to champion causes that all of us appreciate. Barbara Boxer became senator in 1993 after serving 10 years in the House of Representatives. In 2017, she stepped down after 4 terms in the U.S. Senate. Barbara and her husband Stuart are new friends of David, but they've welcomed him completely into their desert family. Now, Senator Boxer is not necessarily the most funniest friend that David really has. No pressure, Barbara. No pressure. But you are a treasure, not only to David, but to all of us. Senator Barbara Boxer.
Kevin, thank you so much for my spot in the program after the 2 funniest people I've ever heard in my life. That was so thoughtful. David, where are you? Stu and I are so pleased to be here for this Star of David occasion. After you get the Star of David, you start saying oy vey a lot more than you did before. David said, I already say it a lot. We are so happy you are in our lives, which you have greatly enhanced. Actually, David greatly enhanced our lives long before we ever met him, before we even knew him or what he'd done. Because his sense of humor, his sense of humanity came right into our California home every Thursday night in all those years that I was in the House of Representatives, starting in 1983, I was a congresswoman from the San Francisco Bay Area. And I would arrive home, greeted by Stu and sometimes our kids, because they were in and out, back and forth from college, a few minutes before Cheers went on. And our family would reunite each week, leaving behind the problems of the world for just a little while. And David did that magic again and again with more extraordinary TV and theatrical hits. The awards he received, the girls, as he calls them, he loves those awards. He loves them. They acknowledged his brilliance. But David, I believe, I don't know if you do, but I believe the best award for you in terms of your profession is that so many millions and millions of people chose your work because they needed a smile. They needed a laugh, a chance to perhaps put personal problems or challenges aside, a chance to see on screen some situation or some character they could relate to, someone, something that made them feel better about a situation, about a personal problem, about themselves. That's because your insights help create characters that reflect the best and worst in all of us. Some characters are brilliant, others have street smarts. Some are cynical, others naive. Some are intellectual, others meat and potatoes. Some are show-offs, others suffer in silence. Some have finesse, others are clumsy. Some are constantly searching for happiness, others are happy inexplicably, you know? In short, that's humanity. And you know how to be a truth teller about all of it. And that in itself is worthy of many, many stars. David, you're the best of your characters. You are. And we're so fortunate you're such a strong part of our community. You're still at work. You're still making this a better place, not just the theater, but in many other ways that have been enumerated. And you not only care about the arts, you care about the state of our world, our country, our state, and our community. You know how to create compelling, made-up stories, but you're also moved to action on real-life, painful stories of inequality, discrimination, and man's inhumanity to man, which we are seeing day after day after day. And you're taking action on that front too, and I am so grateful to you. We all thank you. We thank you today for your work, for your community spirit, for your extraordinary generosity, and most of all, Stu and I, we thank you for your heart. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Senator Boxer. Beautiful, beautiful. Our next speaker is the producing artistic director at the Pasadena Playhouse. He has provided David with his third act, directing highly acclaimed plays and musicals for the Pasadena Playhouse. Danny Feldman has created a home for David's theatrical ambitions. Together, they have produced highly acclaimed shows out of that theater. As I mentioned earlier, they received the 2020 Ovation Award for Best Production of Ragtime, and they are currently co-conspiring on another production for the Playhouse that will open in early 2023. Danny's here to not only share his enthusiasm, but also Danny is a member of David Lee's Foundation. We'll talk about that as well. Welcome, Danny Feldman.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. Hi, David. David and I actually met when I was 22 years old, fresh out of college, my first job at Reprise Theater Company, which there's some of you here some reprises here. I was hired as just a general assistant, and I assisted a lot of different things, including David. One of the early shows we worked on together was the musical Zorba, and there was a character in Zorba named Mimiko, and Mimiko was the little assistant, just like me, that in the play was running around helping, and David lovingly named me Mimiko, and that name has stuck for 20 years. I should add, though, the important part of the story is that in the play, Mimiko is known as the village idiot. Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about David's impact in the theater world. Of course, we all know and celebrate David's television work, but to me, the personal connection is the realm of the theater. David and I have made musicals together for 20 years at this point. Many musicals that have changed me and changed so many people. And I have seen firsthand the impact that has made on David and also David's philanthropy to cultural institutions, the change that has made. Here in Palm Springs, of course, David's leadership gift for the Plaza Theater is more than a gift. It's a call to get others to join, and that really speaks to David's integrity and heart and intentions to bring other people along. When I was at Reprise, though, David loved to support not only that theater, but theaters all over. So first of all, this is not a surprise to any of us who know David, his support here of this theater. We've seen it before in cultural institutions. David was the kind of friend and donor who would come to us and say, how do we make Brigadoon bigger? What do you need for costumes, for sets? And of course, his favorite and my favorite, how do we get the original orchestrations? How do we make sure that the audiences coming to the show hear the show as it originally was on Broadway decades ago? It wasn't just for him, although it was a little bit for him. It was for the community to come together to have an experience. And David gave that gift to us. And recently, the David Lee Foundation is focusing on mid-size and small Los Angeles theaters and already has made a transformative impact, giving dozens of theaters transformative gifts. And I don't use that word lightly. David goes to the theater community and asks a very simple question. What do you need? What do you need to do bigger work, bolder work? What do you need to serve the community better? That is selfless philanthropy that is not around a lot. And the entire theater community, I know, is very grateful for that, David. All of this alone, if you think about it, tens of thousands of folks sit in darkened theaters and feel the impact of David Lee's generosity. Tens of thousands all over Southern California. All of this alone is enough to give David a star for, but that's not even half of it. David is the most extraordinary theater director, not just in Southern California, but in the country. And those here and those who have had the pleasure to work with David know this is true. From Pasadena Playhouse, Reprise, the Hollywood Bowl, LA Opera, his work has been transformative. His work has also shaped the culture landscape of Southern California, and we are all better for it. He has indeed, in many, many ways, moved the cultural landscape forward. We are all grateful. David, I am forever grateful for our friendship. And on behalf of your theater community at large, thank you, and we celebrate you.
Danny Feldman, thank you so much. Beautiful. So our next speaker hails from Saratoga Springs, New York. Now, I know this because my favorite niece owns a house 2 doors away from where David Hyde Pierce grew up. And she tells me that that house is a shrine for locals who are just so happy about the local boy done good. You'd be happy to know that she always features it in all of her tours when we come to Saratoga. We know David best from his 11-year run as Niles Crane at Frasier. While the character Niles Crane was created by the Frasier creators, David Lee, Peter Casey, and David Angel. Listen to this. They had never heard the voice of this iconic character until the very first table read. It's the first time they heard the voice of David Hyde Pierce playing the role of Niles. And at that moment, the character and the actor became inseparable. David's portrayal of Niles on Frasier launched a fruitful professional relationship, but also a dear personal friendship with David Lee. We are so excited to welcome David Hyde Pierce with us today. David.
Thank you. That's funny. I wasn't emotional sitting there. It's not about you. Actually, that's not true. It is totally about you because it's about all the people here from our life together. It's extraordinary and not surprising because, as I was thinking what I was going to say, I was talking to my husband Brian. I said, I don't know if I should talk about the personal relationship or, the professional thing in Frasier. And he said, David's not two people. He's one people. One people? He's one person. He is the guy you get at work and the guy you get at the restaurant. Loving, caring, devoted, professional, brilliant. So I can talk about both at the same time. What I most want to tell you, though, is how he changed Brian and my life when we first came to Los Angeles. So, like David, Brian and I are guys of the theater. Also, like David, we're gays. I'm sorry. No one's recording this. So
I beg to differ.
Starting out in the theater as a gay person is nothing. It's like being a twisted lemon in a martini. It's like a little different, but really not news. But then we came to Los Angeles. We came to Hollywood. It was about a year before Frasier happened, and it was news here. Everything was news here. We had tabloid reporters calling it. I had a tabloid reporter call at 6 a.m. saying, "I'm sorry to call so early, but your mom said this was the best time to get you at home." And we had people stalking us at the house. We had never experienced this, and we did not know what to do, and we did not know how or if we could do what we do and live under these circumstances. At this point, Brian was trying to be a writer on television. And then Frasier came along. And I came on that set. And David and Peter Casey and David Angel had created a place where, in the best sense, it didn't matter. That you were there only to do your work. That's what mattered. They had created a family. Not the kind of family that throws you out if you're different, but the kind of family that throws you out if you don't do your chores. And in addition to that, we had the privilege of meeting Randy and seeing the depth and devotion and beauty of their relationship. And looking at where David had come and who he is, and that beautiful, loving relationship made us possible. So that was the first thing. And I guess what I'm saying is that David's his achievements constantly give opportunity to others. Now, I'm going to tell you this quickly because it's very important. This is very important that I get this off my chest. So one of the episodes that I'm always talked to about is the one that I would call Niles sets his pants on fire and destroys Frasier's apartment. Okay. So I get talked about that all the time. I even got a prize for it. But the idea was David Lee's. David Lee said, I want to do a 10-minute sequence of silent physical comedy in the middle of a situation comedy. Who does that? No one. We didn't do it. No one had ever done it. He had seen Rowan Atkinson and Mr. Bean and thought, oh, that'll be fun. Let's do that. He tossed that bomb into the writer's room and all his merry band of writers, Merry, M-E-R-R-Y. Went to work on it, and in an hour, they had figured out top to bottom every logistical move that would happen to get from a man adjusting the crease in his pants to a man destroying an apartment. There was basically no dialogue, but this was a written script, an absolutely written script. And as part of the family, Kelsey directed it. And David came in with the coup de grace, which is, he said, instead of Niles being alone in the apartment, let's put the dog in the middle of it. Ostensibly, he said, we'll do that because it'll give the editor something to cut to. But I have a feeling it's because as a man of the theater, he knew that everything is better with a live audience. So he gets the credit for that. I got the credit for that, but it was his idea, and his writers team that he created made it possible. And every time Brian and I go to David's beloved theater and see a production that he's done, we see it over and over and over again. Yes, his achievement is extraordinary, but the opportunity that he has given to those actors and those designers to shine and blossom. David, thank you for your friendship, for your mentorship, for your leadership, for your spaceship. I thought there should be 4, but I didn't. You know, you have paved the way for so many of us, and today the great city of Palm Springs returns the favor.
Thank you, David. After a successful career in law, legislation, and government service, Geoff Coors was elected to the Palm Springs City Council in 2015. Geoff has been a forceful leader on critical issues that have addressed quality of life in our town and also just managing the amazing growth that has happened in Palm Springs. He and his husband, James, have also become great personal friends with David Lee. Please welcome Geoff Coors.
I'm so happy to be going last in that crowd. I'm not. So nice to see everyone. David. So really, this is an amazingly wonderful celebration of David. You are truly a shining star. You know, David's being recognized today with a star because of his incredible body of work as a creator, writer, director, producer of iconic television series and innovative theater. Through his work and creativity, he's entertained us, moved us, made us laugh, and made us think. However, David's contributions and impact extend beyond his career in the entertainment industry. He is also a strategic philanthropist, an advocate for equality, an engaged resident of the city of Palm Springs. I want to touch on these briefly in my remarks. We all know David is an extraordinarily generous person. His generosity as a philanthropist is not only financial, and for those of us who do nonprofit work, that's really important, but it's strategic. David puts in the hard work to figure out how to help you do better. He puts in the time to be a partner, not just a donor, because he wants to help the organizations and causes he supports to be the best that they can be. A key example, which you've heard about a little, is his foundation. So I won't repeat that, but I want to quote from the mission. The David Lee Foundation offers monetary grants to encourage the production of high-quality plays and something else, and musicals that, because of financial considerations, are seldom and if ever done. Grants are given to supplement cast sizes, set and costume budgets, orchestras, and rehearsal time. That type of strategic approach, providing the support to allow a production to reach its full potential, is what makes your giving, David, so impactful. David also has a long history of generous and strategic support of numerous organizations, of candidates and causes committed to advancing justice and equality. In fact, my friendship with David started because of his being strategic in his giving and his advocacy for equality. I first met David in the early 2000s when I was working at what was then a relatively new and small LGBT rights organization in Peabody, California. We were planning our second event in Palm Springs, and our then board president reached out to David and asked him if he would consider donating. David invited our board president at the time, Gary Soto, and me to his house to talk. And in our discussion, it became really clear to me that David had done his homework. He knew the work we did, he knew what was coming next, and he was really passionate about the fight for LGBT rights. What David wanted to discuss was what we could do to grow the number of supporters of Equality California here in the desert. How we could increase our budget, how we'd expand and sort of hasten the results of our work. He proposed that we consider bringing in a major entertainer for our event, something Equality California had never done and didn't have the budget to even consider doing in those early days. David shared how he thought we needed that kind of hook to get people to attend the event. And then once they were there, they learned what we did, they become longtime supporters. He then offered to cover the cost of that entertainer and to do the work to secure one. So David, he brought Patti LuPone in to Palm Springs, and not just to perform a song or two, but to do her 45-minute cabaret act. It was an amazing evening. And of course, David's strategy was very successful. That event had more than twice as many people as were in attendance the year before and raised 400% more. David helped us achieve our mission. David's strategic philanthropy had an ongoing impact far beyond the donations. And this is just one of the many organizations he does this for. And of course, that strategic philanthropy is also seen in his recent generous contribution to restore the historic Plaza Theater. David's not only the lead donor, but he's a working member of the board, lending his immense talents and experience to ensure that the restored theater is a community asset. And what's great about the Plaza Theater and its connection with David is it really brings together his love for historic theaters, the arts, and of course his love for Palm Springs. And David's passion for Palm Springs is evidenced in the support of so much about what makes this city so special and like no place else. David's been a strong advocate for the renaissance of our city, supporting historic preservation while championing our new downtown project in this glorious new park. How fitting that David is the very first star ceremony to take place in the park and the very first star to be installed here. David was recently quoted as follows: "I've loved Palm Springs for most of my life. It is nice to finally have evidence the feeling is mutual." David, I hope you and everyone feel the love for you here today. Thank you. Okay. Now, what do I have? Different hat. Okay. I'm going to ask Nona Watson from the Chamber to come back up so we can do some of our official business. And thank Mayor Middleton for allowing me to step in to do this today. And I do, though, briefly want to say, probably 2-3 years ago, the City Council decided we needed to make some changes in our STAR program. And JR, who along with our former Mayor Moon, worked very hard to bring the Chamber in to run this program. And Nona and her team have done a truly outstanding job. A lot of the staff are here, so please join me in thanking them for all of their. I'm looking at JR because I'm like, and of course, like most things in the political world, they've had a little controversy, as they all do, Maryland, the park. But I think in most cases, and clearly in this one, we got it right. So, Nona, thank you for all you do. So, David, please join us. So I have the official proclamation from the City of Palm Springs. So whereas there should be a special ceremony, that's this, on the sidewalk in the City of Palm Springs at the downtown park on Friday, March 18th, 2022, honoring acclaimed television creator David Lee with a 449th star. And whereas David Lee is an awarded producer, writer, and director, And whereas David Lee is a passionate supporter of the city of Palm Springs for over 20 years, contributing his skills and financial success to support the local arts community and to promote the Palm Springs brand. And whereas David Lee has been recognized for his various outstanding works, including Frasier, Cheers, and Wings. And whereas David Lee has been nominated 19 times for Prominent Emmy Awards and has won 9 of those nominations. He's also won the Directors Guild Award, the Golden Globe Award, Producers Guild Award, GLAAD Media Award, British Comedy Award, 3 Television Critics Association Awards, 2 Humanities, and the Peabody Award. Whereas David Lee is an advocate for professional theater and has contributed to the restoration of the historic theater by giving a generous donation. Therefore, we, the City Council of Palm Springs, California, by the power vested in us, from this site where we dedicate this star, do hereby proclaim the 18th day of March 2022 to be David Lee Day in the city of Palm Springs.
We also have a couple more surprises. We have a star replica for David, so we're hoping that he takes it home and it joins the rest of the girls. What do you think? Shall fit in? Of Chris Hannon and Landon Morris. They are here today. They're in the back. They want to award you with your very own star pin so that you can wear it. And remember, Palm Springs will hold them for you. And now the moment we're waiting for, we're going to reveal the actual star. Oh, David, you can... David will say something about his actual star.
My first line is highly appropriate. This is exactly like eavesdropping your own funeral. It's pretty weird, but I highly recommend it to everyone, except the dying part. Listening to David Hyde Pierce reminded me of many things. First and foremost, my love of him, but the importance of actors have been in my life, and just generally for everyone. It's like they could take just turn-of-the-mill writing and turn it into something really special, like by just an emphasis or turn of a phrase, and it's so special to me. I have an example of that. A couple of years ago, my friends John and Rob got one of these stars on the there we are. And as I was walking away with my friend Kevin, I said, "Isn't it nice that their friends did that for them?" And then I thought, now an actor could have really made that a good sentence by saying, "Isn't it nice that their friends did that for them?" And so here we are. Thank you, Geoff, the City of Palm Springs, Nona, the Chamber of Commerce, all the speakers who managed not to embarrass me too much and who just made me feel terrific today. I was worried about this. I found in the last few weeks that I'm not a good honoree. It makes you think with someone with my ego that I would just love it. Thank you to the small army who arranged the logistics for this event. There are too many of you to name, especially my assistants, Geoff Pepperly, and especially Tom Miller. He's been my personal assistant for 21 years, and he's the man for whom the phrase, "I don't know what I would do without you," was invented. Clark Basin, who helped put all this together. The most interesting thing I can say about Clark is that I met him 45 years ago in Harold Robbins' swimming pool. News at 10. But especially I want to thank Kevin Corcoran, my dear, dear friend. I have a nickname for Kevin. I call him Bell, B-E-L-L-E. Every morning we take what he calls gratitude walks of 4 to 5 miles. And to be with Kevin on one of these is to daily be in the opening number of Beauty and the Beast. Hello, shopkeeper. Hello, jogger. Hello, bird. Hello, homeless person. He's just that kind of person. I have a long history of being in love with Palm Springs. I first came to Palm Springs over 65 years ago. My parents would drive us down from Claremont in their 1955 Studebaker for the day. I loved it. I thought I was on the moon. In 1968, my high school graduation party was held at the Riviera Hotel, and some of my high school graduation classes here. I often, when I'm in that ballroom, which is now the Hotel Margaritaville, is that right? I'd say, you know, I had my high school graduation party here, and everybody goes, we know, you tell us every time you're in this now. When at college at the University of Redlands, about 45 minutes away, we would drive to Palm Springs to see first-run movies. Cabaret, 1972, a life changer. Or we would sneak into the El Mirador Hotel, which is now appropriately a hospital. And we would convince the poolside waiter that we were over 21. In my 80s, my friends and I would spend long weekends at one of the gay boutique hotels. I can never remember the name of them, but it doesn't matter because we refer to all of them as the Desperate Palms. 20 years ago, I bought a second home here, the Diamond Shore House, which has slowly changed my life from becoming a second home to becoming my first home here in Palm Springs. And it is filled with many, many good friends. And my closing line, I want to particularly strangle Jeff Kors for. I have loved Palm Springs for a good long time. It's nice to know now that it is reciprocated. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
So what's going to happen is the dedication is going to be moving over here.
Here's Geoff. Geoff, you want me to make the announcement?
I was picking up my extra microphone so I could come and...
Okay, we're going to wake our way over to the start now. Let's
So
that's full start.
I'm going to go up here. Okay, so they're keeping media away. They've asked media to stay over here, so that's what I'm doing. So I'm showing you from the rear. Oh, hi, Frank. Pardon me. So they're being very particular on who gets over there and who doesn't. So, oops. So they've put all of the guests over here, and actually,
Okay. Over there. Get back. Get back, please. I've got my orders. You got yours. We're going to open this up.
I'm not getting any closer. I don't know why they're not letting me up there, but that's okay. So I'm going to set up a better shot for all of you and wrap up the broadcast. I'm going to turn the camera around. Okay there. So to the best of my ability, I brought you live coverage of this wonderful star dedication for the great David Lee. And I know that the video wasn't the best, but I do believe I had really good audio of the entire program. And the media was organized very differently, and for some reason I could not get into the final gaggle of media right there up close, but I was a little bit assertive and got you a shot of that. So, and I think I got a shot no one else got, an aerial view sort of with my built-in Skycam. At any rate, it's wonderful to have been here. You know, one of the personal stories that I would like to share about David Lee, if you didn't tune in at the beginning of the show, is that there was a huge protest to keep so-called Dr. Laura Schlesinger off the air as a television host. And I want to say that GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, was one of the key organizers. But nevertheless, that took place outside of Paramount Studios. At the time, David Lee worked there. And he actually came out and joined the protest against his own employer at the time. And that's one of my personal favorite David Lee moments. So I want to thank you for watching today. Tune in for ongoing broadcasts of PromoHomo.TV. I'm working to bring you new and encore broadcasts every day now. And I'm going to wrap up the show by saying I will see you next time.